Hello and what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And I just saw a post on Reddit yesterday about how Liquid used a bug to alright, hold on, fix the replay speed here. It's moving a little bit too fast. So what I was trying to say is it was like a Chinese translation of some forum post, I guess, where they said that Liquid abused the side force to win TI, and the reason why the Chinese teams couldn't counter it because it was a bug abuse, or it was like a unintended mechanic that was abused similar to Fountain Hook. But I don't believe that post was entirely serious. I'm not so sure if they're memeing or whatever, but I do think that Liquid had a very unique playstyle at TI that no other team had, and it revolves around split push, of course, but it's not just your everyday split pushing, right? What they used was the ability to push out lanes on multiple of their heroes, but at the same time dominate in the early game, and that was what allowed them to play this type of play style. And in this game particularly, they had a rough time against Resolution's Weaver. Keep in mind he was 14-1. That was the first time they killed him there. But the thing is, the way they played the early game allows them to hold their towers for a very long time. So they usually, if not win all their lanes, they at least do well in all their lanes. And that is really significant to their ability to scale later on and reach a point where they can just hit their timings and do what they want. Especially with heroes like Coddle that needs Aghanims to shine, you can't afford to lose the early game, otherwise you just get run down. And sure, it can defend towers well, it doesn't really matter because usually enemy teams will just buy pipes and brute force through it anyway. But because of how Liquid were able to play the early game, I think Nahaz even mentioned it in one of his tweets, as Liquid is one of the best early game teams. They abused the strength of their team to play a play style that is, I guess considered by some Chinese forum users bug abuse. But with a Broodmother in the game, I guess it is bug abuse because this hero is not very balanced. I would say her ability to just take over the game and take over her lane, most importantly, you really have to either pick against her. You need very good forms of catch, such as like a Storm Spear or something like that, to really deal with the Brood. And in this scenario, I think both the supports for Empire pretty bad against Brood. Bounty Hunter can be arguable because you can track her and show up invis and dust her and stuff like that. But at this point, notice that Resolution went from 14-0 to 14-2, and now he's losing racks. And it's just Liquid realizing the best heroes in the patch right now and playing them to their fullest potential, because the answer to this is not many. Because what Matumman is able to do is take over entire lane. I can go back in the replay and show you some example of this at this point. So it's 10 minutes in the game right now, and notice the game state. If you look at Rezo, he's 3-0. He's had a relatively rough lane. He's about to get another kill here. What Batrider wants to do is run around the map and killing people. And keep in mind that Empire picked specifically to counter Liquid. They have a lot of catch because they know that that's what they need to kill Liquid. Because if they don't have these mobile heroes to just go in there and find these kills, Liquid are just going to do their thing. Necro is going to be unkillable. He's going to sit in a lane. Anytime a hero shows up on another side of the map, or he's not worried of dying, he'll hide in like the trees and just peek out, clear the creep wave, and do his thing. Same thing with Matumman. She's just gonna hide in the trees, run around, farm the jungle, and push out the lane. And same thing with Beastmaster. This is what Liquid like to do. They pick Beastmaster, Darkseer, Nature's Prophet for mind control, heroes that can split push really well, and I can even just go through all their games right now just to show it. So I'm gonna just start the lower bracket run here. So they started against Secret, and Hold on, I can't tell who is playing what. So they end up losing this game, but come on, load please. We're so back. Not the greatest split pusher in the game, so I can see why they lost it. I'm pretty sure he just had a really bad lane as well, and at that point, back becomes useless. But in this game, my control will be on Venomancer. That's another hero I forgot. I mean, drop the wards, you push out the lanes, and in this game, I believe he was actually a Legion Commander. So against Secret, they changed up their strategy a little bit, but if you look against the Chinese team specifically here, notice Darkseer. This was his Venomancer again. Notice this game, it was... Did he actually play Earthshaker? And he had a really shit game. Alright. In this game, he was Nature's Prophet again. And the grand finals, he was Nature's Prophet, Venomancer, and Darkseer. So the way they like to play in mind control is not necessarily on a start fighter or initiator like other teams like to do, where you see other teams picking heroes like Earthshaker, Enigma, and things like that, where they want an initiator. What Liquid would do specifically, and other teams did it as well. You saw Secret pick up Nature's Prophet in a lot of games, and even I think EG and teams like that, and of course LFY with Inflames, Nature's Prophet. But the way Liquid did it, they picked split pushers on pretty much all of their cores or pushers in some way, and they relied on GH, on like an Earthshaker, to be most of their stuns. And you notice a lot of Liquid drafts are pretty stun light, and it's just because they are able to play on pretty light stuns, because their players are just really good at setting up fights and looking for kills without having very high amounts of initiation heroes. Where you look at EG, where they usually like to have like 2 stunners or initiators. If you look at Liquid, they usually just have 1, and they really rely on split pushing. And we'll go back to the replay to see how things play out. So notice Miracle is in the bottom lane. They lose mind control bottom as he was trying to pressure this bottom tower, or I don't know what he was doing here, but at the same time, they get a kill bottom. Top lane is being pressured, mid lane is being pressured, and the thing about this is, when your lanes are pushed in, someone has to be here to push it out. So Puck is kind of forced to be mid still, even though he already lost his mid tower, but he had to stay there for another wave, so that's more time that he's not ganking anybody. And now top lane is under threat, so now he has to go up here, and it constantly gives the enemy team these obligations to go and defend the lanes, and that just buys you time. And time is all Liquid needs with their draft, right? They just need to get to a point where Kato has Aghanims and his Force Staff, because that is GH's item build. They'll get some nice items onto Mind Control. I think he goes for Medallion and Halberd this game, and then Miracle goes for Radiance. So they're going these late game items. Broodmother also farms very fast. She wants her BKB, she wants her Deso, Mask of Madness. Notice more kills are being fed to Empire, but it just doesn't matter because this tower is still full HP. And the way that Liquid play the early game is they're really good at taking use of their heroes and taking these early towers, while at the same time defending their towers, making sure that they have map control for most of the early to mid game. And at this point, Bounty Hunter can come in and get as many track kills as he wants, but if these towers aren't going to fall, it is just more time. Because keep in mind, with these tier 1s alive and at full HP, by the way, at 10 minutes in the game, every time that Empire wants to go for these towers get harder and harder to kill. The later on the game goes, the more items that Liquid has. And that's a very big deal, because now that Empire wants to go and like try to end the game at some point, when they have an advantage, they have to go through these tier 1s, and each of these tier 1s will be a major fight the later on the game goes. And with that, Liquid just buy more time. And let's say even the fight goes Empire's way, if they expended too many ultimates or whatever, they just got a tier 1, Liquid can go and group up and take another objective, because it's late enough in the game that the goal advantage doesn't even matter that much, right? As long as they know that Empire's ultimates are on cooldown or whatever, and they're not in position. That's also a major thing, because positioning and being set up is very crucial for taking fights for Empire later on in the game. Because let's say even though they do have their ultimates up, if they're not in position to use them, let's say like the creep waves are too far pushed in, or they don't have vision or whatever, and Liquid are going to be able to do exactly what they want. And if we scroll on later on in the game, exactly that happens here. Let me try to find the exact time. Did it already happen? Hold on. Oh, not to mention the vision control that Beastmaster gives as well. But I believe it is now. Yeah, it is now. So right here, again, notice what happened. Let me scroll down back. Sorry for the back and forth here. It's gonna be annoying. Alright, we're gonna speed through from here. Hopefully my replay doesn't bug out. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact time. Alright, here we go. So a fight breaks out here. Liquid think they can take it, but again, notice this is a fight over tier 1. As I said, the later on the game goes, it's 22 minutes in the game, so these tier 1s are no longer easy, right? Every time you want to try to take this tier 1 and Liquid is alive, it will actually cost you a full fight. But with a DD rune onto Rezo, this fight actually goes their way. It's kind of unexpected, a little bit lucky as well, so they finally go back for the tower. They get a huge kill here, and I mean, Liquid have no escape route now, and they're going to lose everybody. They lose all 5, and they only trade for a bounty hunter. It was a nice DD rune picked up by Rezo, really changed the game there. It finally swung the gold back in the favor of Empire and gave them a huge bounty for this tower that they've been missing. But notice what happens now. Resolution got way too low from killing the tower, and they can try to push in towards the tier 2 a little bit, but notice what Liquid do as soon as they respawn. TP out to the lanes. GH goes bottom, pushes the bottom wave. This is very important, as this is the last tier 1 alive, and immediately vision on Roshan. They know that it's spawning soon, and Metal Man can just push out the waves, farm the ancients, and now they can set up for Rosh. And they know that at this point they can just transition any little kill. They see the bounty hunter with some vision provided from, I believe, Kuroki. I don't know, it was moving way too fast, but anyway, they get a pick off there onto the bounty hunter. They go in here into the Rosh pit, and now they got the gem, and they are set up. While remember what Empire had to do was push out the waves. They're pushing out the waves, they're not in position, and now Resolution peeks his head into Rosh, loses his life, and this is suddenly a huge disaster. They lose Resolution for a very long death timer because of the Reaper Scythe. They go into Roshan, clean up Rosh, they almost have the Aghanims and 1,000 gold onto GH, and suddenly it went from a 5-man wipe to them taking Roshan and getting a kill on the major core on Empire, who was 14-0 at that point, and now he's 14-1, and that's all it takes. So with Liquid's drafts, their ways they play the early game in terms of early aggression, being able to dominate the lanes, they're able to take over the map entirely, and that's why they are one of the best IO teams, if not the best IO team right now, is their ability to not only use IO to win the early game, but to transition it into kills mid game with minimal stuns, because again, IO is a support that can keep heroes alive but not really set up a kill or anything like that, right? Because he doesn't have disable other than tether slow. But the fact that Liquid are able to get kills with minimal stuns or disables in general. This game they only have two, right? The Roar and Charge, and I guess Reaper Scythe, but it's not really initiation. They can take over the game entirely just with their split pushing, and they get a couple kills here and there because keep in mind, split pushing forces enemy heroes to show up to push the waves back in, and at that point they can just be camped. And that's why that Chinese post talked about how Liquid would hide in the trees, for example, like these areas right here where you can't really ward. Like you can ward up here but like not over here, right? So they would hide here, they'd push the wave in, and let's say Puck was like, oh, the wave's pushing in because Kato like blasted a couple waves, and he goes here, and then suddenly Beastmaster from the trees roars him. That's a kill, and push in for like a tier 2 or something like that, right? Same thing with this top lane. You can ward here, but not necessarily like in like this area, right? Over here and here, it's kind of hard. I guess this does cover most of this top jungle, so I guess this is not considered a side forest. But back over here, this area and this area, just anywhere where you can't ward. You can ward here, but over here, plenty of space for like NP, Beastmaster, anything to hide it. And with that, you can set up a lot of kills. But I mean, I think the side force thing was a bit of a meme. I'm not so sure if the post was actually being entirely serious, but it's their playstyle in general. So to sum it up, what Liquid like to do is push in the waves with all three of their cores, usually. Very rarely will they just pick like a core that doesn't split push well, and even in those games, just that one game I noticed that my control was playing regular here, like Earthshaker, he actually did pretty bad. And I think that game, one of the games they lost because that he was playing Earthshaker and GH was playing Kato, and it just didn't work out for them. But when they get their playstyle, which is split pushing hero for a mind control, split pushing hero from a Tama man, either like Necro, Brood, Lycan, things like that, they can do what they want. They push out the lanes, and at any point in time, if Empire ever missteps, they'll get punished for it, and suddenly objectives go their way. They'll never actively like group up and try to go for towers. The towers will just fall one by one, and I think a major reason behind that is grouping up and taking towers isn't as good as it used to be. Because before, the tower wouldn't get all this bonus armor when you 5-man, but now like you actually can take a tower significantly faster just by yourself without teammates nearby, because the more teammates you have, the more armor the tower gets, and it just helps out these split pushing heroes to be better in the meta, as they can just take towers a lot faster, especially with catapults and the buff to them. But anyway, with Liquid's playstyle, I don't know if you consider bug abuse or just abusing the game mechanics. I think bug abuse is saying a little bit too much, but I mean, Broodmother is a bug, so, and they definitely used her to win TI. They struck fear into the enemy's hearts, and even I think Newbie was banning it a second phase later on in the tournament. But I have to give props to Liquid. I mean, Rat Dota has been a thing since it was coined with Alliance, but the way that Liquid played it is, I gotta say, next level, and it all really goes down to how they play the early game. And I might just do a video on how to play the early game. You can't really replicate it unless you have a team, because it really requires coordination from everybody. It's not really a solo pub thing, but maybe I'll just make a video on it just for people who are curious. Can't really ever apply it unless you're on a pro team and pretty high MMR, high skill players. But it's interesting regardless, right? But I would say that Liquid's early aim, as Naha said, is the best in the game right now, and they found a way to turn that strength of theirs by drafting the proper heroes into just picking winning strategies that are so hard to deal with, or almost impossible to deal with, that, I mean, I don't even know what you do against this. I think the only way to counter it really is to catch them. This is the way you counter split push, is you just go for a heavy ganking lineup, and that's what Empire did, but it just didn't work out for them even then. So it pretty much forces the enemy team to play a perfect game how Liquid play, while they have decent amount of room for error, and just not really fair. And I can see the reason why that Chinese poster was so salty. But anyway, as the game ends here, after just seemed like one bad event for Empire, the game completely fell out of their control, and now Liquid will take the throne. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and it's not really a tutorial or anything like that. It's more of a analysis or info piece. But if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like down below. If you are interested in watching more videos like this, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.